Cinematically, I love this. It is art. Todd Phillips has once again delivered. But what about costume-wise? What about for the character of Harley Quinn herself? And that's definitely Harley Quinn. So aggressive. This is such an aggressive image. And I love that. But aggressive, particularly when it comes from women, is tough to pull off. So when I first saw this from a costume perspective this morning, I wasn't sure what I thought, but I really wanted to think about it because when I first saw Joaquin Phoenix's Joker, I didn't like that either. So that's why this video didn't come out this morning. That's why I took a few hours to really think about it, to dive into these pictures. And I gotta tell you, I'm coming around. I like what I see. So let me take you through my thought process so, you can see where I'm coming from. And I'm very curious what you think about it. We're still missing a lot of pieces of the puzzle. We don't know what the story is, but there's some really interesting stuff going on already. So here we go. Now, I think we all realized that Joaquin Phoenix's Joker was something special when we saw the on-set photos of him filming the subway sequence. A lot of us didn't care for the camera test, which was initially released. But when we saw him impishly walking out of the subway with that cigarette, we were like, that's not only the Joker, but that's a fascinating take on him. Here, we've gone straight to the on-set photos, and you would think we would have that same immediate, it's Harley Quinn reaction. I mean, we definitely, again, that's Harley Quinn. But is it Harley Quinn? That's, I think, a little bit less clear. But it does. The first thing it did for me was raise some fascinating questions about Harley Quinn as a character and how DC handles itself in general. So let's start there. We're used to seeing new takes on Harley Quinn all the time. The character, like a lot of DC characters, is constantly reinvented in the comics, in animation, in video games, and on screen. And it's not even just one version per medium. There are multiple versions in each medium. Now, in stark contrast, Marvel characters rarely get new looks in the comics. I mean, they do about every 10 years or so. They get reinvented. There's an evolution. I wouldn't even call it reinvention. There's an evolution of the character. So you can see, like, for instance, Loki through the years. And, the Loki show kind of played with that a little bit. But there's not a huge delineation. And at every single time, there's really just two versions of each Marvel character. The comic book version and the MCU version, because Marvel doesn't really do animation or video games. You might think that some would argue that Marvel is, artistically bankrupt, and I would say there's an argument to be made there. But at the same time, Marvel is a very strong commercial product, and that's why it's able to consistently deliver. Joker is $1 billion picture. The first Joker is $1 billion picture. But I think Todd Phillips really tapped into the zeitgeist there. And, what zeitgeist are they tapping into here? And is it as big as the 99%? You make a movie to the 99%, for movies which are the art form of the 99%, you're going to do really well. But if you make a movie that I suspect is about abused women and feminists, well, not even all women are united on this front, which is sad, but it's true. So it becomes, and guys are so sensitive these days to those kind of subject matters. Can you explore it in $1 billion picture? I don't know, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't try. Maybe at least she'll get back into the Oscar race. All right, so even as the MCU is in the midst of their supposed multiverse saga, by the way, they still haven't done meaningful different versions of the same characters. I mean, they just flew in and out and they flew in and got killed in Multiverse of Madness. But you would think that Marvel, at least in the multiverse saga, would have this. But even there, they've shied away from it because I think, they know what the importance of being a strong commercial product. Now, as I've been saying for quite some time, well, it gives DC a lot of artistic credibility and some really fierce fans. It's a divided fan base. It's fierce pockets of fandom, which sure are loud online and social media, but not enough to really move the needle at the box office. So everyone picks their favorite current version of, say, Harley Quinn and gets behind that aggressively. But again, it's just so fractured rather than having everybody on the same page as this is Harley. You got Margot Robbie. I don't think this boxes out Margot Robbie, by the way. You know, it's aggressive, but it definitely still allows, it doesn't replace Margot Robbie. I think it kind of replaces Joker, which we'll talk about. But, you know, Margot Robbie can coexist with this, and we'll see who Matt Reeves picks and what his take on the character is. Now, on that note, as the DC movies enter a soft reboot, and I think we all assume, because James Gunn is so close with her and has been so positive about her on and off screen, that Margot Robbie will be one of the people who continues. He even recently said that in a tweet. You know, but we'll never know for sure until we actually see what happens. As I say, pay attention to what they do, not what they say. But James Gunn's support of Margot Robbie has been extreme, his strongest, in fact, I think, of anyone. Let's just leave that where it is. But so as they have a soft reboot and they continue to be fractured with what they're now branding Elseworlds movies, just like the terminology in the comics, you would think it would be wise for them to make clear delineations as to which version you are watching. Because, you know, in the original Joker movie, it was very clearly a 70s, 80s vibe. But here, you could be easily looking at set photos from the Batman Part 2. You know, it doesn't seem as distinct anymore. Maybe they'll put a groovy camera filter over it with lots of grain, like the first movie, and it'll feel a little bit more different. But right now, if you told me that this was from the Batman, I would believe it. Because that has a little bit of a dated feel too. That's like a little 90s like, right? So it was just pretty freaking close to the 80s, man. But undeniably, it has become a ritual that everyone who works on a DC project in any medium wants to do their own take on Harley. They want to do their own take on DC. You know, because Warner Brothers gives such creative freedom, which creates this roller coaster. But anyway. And it's become fun for fans to see every latest version of Harley and discuss how it ranks amongst the others. So let's do that with Joker 2's Harley. Unlike Joaquin Phoenix's Arthur, Lady Gaga's Harleen Quinzel and Harley Quinn are already strikingly different. Oh, I like this. Her Harleen is softer from the color palette, right? To the light purple is really the lavender. Oh, I wonder if that's interesting. You know, Lady Gaga is very close to the LGBT community. And of course, that's the kind of character Harley Quinn has become. If any character, Margot Robbie can say she wants to do that all she wants, but you know, she had a lot of opportunity. But if anyone can pull Harley Quinn in the mainstream in that direction, it would be Lady Gaga. Oh, I would love that. But anyway, I think that the development they've done with, you know, you've seen a lot of women move into LGBT relationships, particularly after coming out of abusive relationships. I think the whole thing is really very fascinating. So anyway, so Harleen is softer, right? Even the hair to the makeup. And she literally has, at least in this scene, a deer in the headlights expression. While her Harley Quinn is stark and powerful. I love that. Thanks to the way this scene is shot, Harley Quinn's costume, right, versus the mise-en-scène for the crowd, right, and the officers. You'll notice how the officers surround her, not just for security or for whatever reason, but visually that allows her to pop even more. It's very, very cleverly done. And of course, there's the magnetism of Lady Gaga, such star power. Her Harley Quinn is an undeniable force here, which is, you know, I don't think we've ever seen that from Harley. When I first saw these pictures, I did think something's missing. And I couldn't quite put my finger on it at first. But while I was doing the notes for this video, I was like, there are two things. The first is fun factor. It's missing a fun factor. We'll get to the other one a little bit later. It's the male gaze. Gaze, G-A-Z-E. But even Joaquin Phoenix's Joker has an impishness to him and also a sadness, which made him an instant hero and relatable to the downtrodden, not just in the movie, the world of that first film, but in real life. You know, a lot of people related to his character and what his character was saying and fighting for. I love that speech. You know, the one he gives on the show where he says, if it was my body, you'd just step right over it and keep going. That was powerful stuff. But this Harley Quinn is all business, at least in these pictures. She seems to be wearing a take on a woman's workplace suit, which is a very, very interesting choice. She has an intentional hard look. She's back to the black and red, which of course is the original look for the character. But the baby pink and blue, which have been incredibly popular since David Ayer introduced it with Margot Robbie, and well, even Margot Robbie has moved away from that. It's still in the comics. It's still seen a lot in the video games and in animation. That's been very popular. Very, very popular. Her hair is aggressively slicked back and not even quite the platinum blonde of the Harleen version of this character. Instead, in some photos, it looks almost like a garish yellow. In some shots, it looks a little bit more platinum again, but I think particularly when you contrast it to the white of her shirt, the white diamonds, it does make a garish look, which I think is great. I think it's a really cool choice, but it's a aggressive choice. Again, it's aggressive. Fascinating the more that I look at it. We also get a few shots with emotion, right? She's very stoic for most of these shots, but we have a middle finger here, which I think is great. But this I love even more. This smile. This isn't a flirty smile. This isn't a playful smile. This is a Joker smile. And that is fascinating. And it's a very risky approach to take. But let's discuss. We'll see. And this might not even be in the actual film. This might be just Lady Gaga, in between takes. But Lady Gaga, she didn't want to do backup to Margot Robbie. And I don't know if she wants to do backup to Joaquin Phoenix either. Which, I got to say, I love Lady Gaga. And I'm excited to see her take on Harley. But anyway, because in many ways, in the world of DC, Harley Quinn has become so popular that she's not only becoming as popular as Joker, but in many ways she's replacing the character. I know, but you can't deny that there's a case to be made for that. Who has a top solo comic? It's Harley Quinn. There have been stabs at a Joker solo comic exploring his evil nature, his grotesque evil nature, but also, I thought very interestingly, his obsession with the Gordons. I thought that was really cool to make it really almost was a Joker Jim Gordon comic at the same time. But, those comics don't really quite take. And, they don't really quite gel either. They're not. But I also have to tell you, the current Harley Quinn comic is also unreadable. But, I think people continue to pick it up because they have such faith in the character and the character's so appealing. And I've bought the upcoming issue this week because they're kind of they're doing a creative team change yet again because they know they haven't hit the mark on the comic. But Harley Quinn's so popular, they just keep trying. So hopefully the gabillionth time is the charm. They've never had a good writer on the Harley Quinn comic, in my opinion. Ever. I didn't even think Jimmy Palmiotti and Amanda Conner did a good job with the character, to be honest with you. But yeah, no Joker comic, but there's still a Harley comic. In the recently released Gotham Knights video game, there's a Harley, not a Joker, taking her own meetings in Arkham and having her own gang. In the DC-made movies, there's currently no Joker. And on her animated series, he shows up now and then, but he's not a main character, and he's no longer why people tune in. The character and the show have been moving away from him. He still shows up in pretty good storylines sometimes, but they've definitely moved away from him. And from what I hear about Joker 2, I don't want to give any spoilers for this movie, but they're going to be exploring a Joker versus Harley element as well. And that's all I want to say about it. But I think this is fascinating. Although I don't know how many other people will find it fascinating, which is always DC's problem. How will audiences respond to that? I suspect, as I just said, they'll be divided. The first Joker made $1 billion at the box office because, again, it spoke to 99% of the globe. But how about this story? We'll have to see exactly what this story is. But right now, to me, I feel this image again is one that speaks to feminists. But movies, comic book movies, well, box office is still driven by men, I have to say, especially to $1 billion. Guys will see a comic book movie 10 times in theaters. Women, I don't think women, for the most part, ever will see a comic book movie that much. Some like Titanic had a lot of female repeat viewing, but that's because of the romantic fairy tale aspects to it. And the fairy tale is intentionally stripped out of this, as you can see. Although maybe there will be parts of it in there, because are we finally getting Mad Love? This looks like the end of Mad Love to some degree, right? Because Mad Love is a story about abuse, which is why the Joker and Harley relationship very complex and debatable. Because some people really love them as a couple, but you're like, how can you love them as a couple? It's an abusive relationship. And the whole point is that when it feels appealing is how abuse works. But some people don't choose not to see that, which fascinatingly is how some abuse victims act. So it's fascinating. Now, I would like to add, as I said, in addition to no fun factor here, there is, again, no male gaze, Gaze, in this version of Harley Quinn either, which again is also a very interesting choice, especially when comic book movies are primarily, interest in them is primarily with guys. So, and also to their credit, this is a film directed by a man and written by men, although Joker Folie Deux does have a female costume designer, and not the same one from the first film. For some reason, they decided to change costume designers. This Harley Quinn does not want you to feel sorry for her, right? This Harley Quinn literally stands alone, at least in these pictures. I'm very curious to see how that plays out, both in the film and with audiences. I wonder if this Harley will get an Ivy. I would like to see that. I would like to see the Ivy version to match this Harley. I find it fascinating. I find it intriguing. I find it very emotionally moving. But I also would agree that right now I don't find it particularly fun, Although, would you describe the first Joker movie as fun? That's true. If it can get a visceral reaction from people. But is it the first Joker, I think, for most people, it didn't get particularly well reviewed, but I think for a large majority, it had a visceral, sympathetic reaction, or at least you could understand where the movie was coming from. Feminism is such a lightning rod issue these days. Why is that? But it is. So I'm not quite sure how it will be. And is this the crux of the story? Is this the lead part of it? I mean, I know bits and pieces, but let's see. I've heard some things about the ending of the film, which make me real nervous for it. But we'll see. So anyway, from a business perspective, I'm a little concerned about this. As a fan, I'm very excited to see what Todd Phillips is up to here, and Lady Gaga, to be fair. Because this Harley Quinn doesn't care what any of us think, right? And for that to work, for that to be exciting, I think you have to cast Lady Gaga, which was crucial. Bravo that they did that. But they have to then nail the story as well. Lady Gaga doesn't always rake in the box office. Look at House of Gucci. I thought, some people most people turned down that movie, but I thought she was brilliant in it. And so let's just see. What do you think? Share your thoughts down below. Subscribe today. And of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.